Hello there, I'm back. In today's video I will focus on character animation. But first, let me start with one topic. I made minor changes to the effect of killing enemies. Originally I only made effects similar to the pixelated version. It didn't work at all here. Now instead of the bodies falling off the map, they stay. The animation is different depending on the direction from which the bullet came. In the future I want to add different animations corresponding to the way character was killed. For example, when the monster exploded, it would break into pieces. The big problem was making the blood effects look good. So I tried to fix everything with animation of gushing blood, but the effect didn't match the game. I reduced the effect and added the falling blood droplets. It works much better already. Over time I want to do blood effects that stay on the screen, both behind the character and in some cases on the screen. There is something like that in Gun Girl 2. I discussed this in the previous video and it works great. I'll refine all of this while working on the next weapons. I don't want to throw all ideas into the most basic weapon. Enemies drops experience points and sometimes coins. I've already added a simple bar and leveling system. We can get new levels. For now it only gives us simple graphic effects. I want to deal with new skills after introducing at least few more weapons. Now let's move on to the animation. In the game I use skeletal animation with elements of frame-by-frame digital animation. In the previous video I mentioned how positively it affects the amount of resources in the game. But maybe two quick definitions first, in case anyone doesn't know. Digital frame-by-frame animation consists in creating every necessary pose of the hero, and then setting them on the timeline, which will create the illusion of movement. With more complex designs or characters, it's very laborious. In the skeleton animation we don't have to draw every frame. Here, as the name suggests, we create a skeleton. Then we can attach graphics to each bone and set the whole thing in motion by manipulating the positions of individual bones. This method allows us for smoother movement with less work. But the problem is that if we don't have enough different pictures representing the elements, animation can look cheap. I believe that frame-by-frame animations give more interesting effects despite of greater amounts of work and less fluidity, while skeletal animation allows us for smoother transitions, different outfits or real-time manipulations of the animation. So I decided to try the best of both worlds. In the game we have a skeleton animation that tries to pretend to be drawn frame by frame. Characters have low animation frames, which makes them less fluid, which allows for better connection with frame-by-frame elements such as character legs. All movement of the lower body is fully drawn frame by frame, and for example in case of zombie spawn animation, the whole character is made with frame-by-frame animation. I think it works pretty well. The last character I worked on was Lord Bob, a vampire who is one of the first bosses in the game. In his case I made a simple stop-motion animation of the hands based on my own recordings. From those I pulled out the shading and general poses of the hands. I did the animation itself in Game Maker, then I just refined it a bit in Photoshop and added to the skeleton of the character in Spine. This technique also allowed the addition of boss eyes that follow the player position. In the future I'd like to expand on those elements. For example, we can make the enemy more precise hitting or shooting at the enemy's position. This is a good time to talk about boss character design and how I create mechanics in the game. The character's name was of course inspired by Enchanter Tim from Monty Python. Later I decided that each character should have a relatively normal common name, which by the way is supposed to be connected with the fact that in those fantasy locations we will find various modern equipment. In the bar we have karaoke, in the other locations we will find washing machines, fridges, TV sets, stuff like that. I have an idea for the humor and the general tone of the game in my head. Well, as you can see I'm aiming for the dark comedy atmosphere with fantasy elements. Bob is inspired by the combination of the classic black and white Nosferatu with the creation of Gary Oldman from Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. There was no wig in the pixelated version. Here it was added mainly because of the potential for adding new mechanics. It allows us for an additional attack which I will discuss soon. And maybe things like showing the health level by the week's damage. When it comes to boss attacks, I really don't want them to be random. In the missions themselves, I try to stick to specific rules, such as new elements must be introduced in order to teach the player, then develop it, and finally somehow reverse this concept by combining with another element or enemy. It's something similar to principles followed by Nintendo when creating 2D Mario games. The same with bosses, they are supposed to be the final summary, and I want each attack to be shown and practiced in some way beforehand. So Bob creates zombies who are the primary enemies from the start of the game. Then he shoots fireballs, the same ones used by the smaller vampires encountered in the manor. I'm planning to add shooting smaller fireballs in a straight line, like zombies throwing axe or maybe shaking spiders out of a wig. Spiders will meet in the swamp on the way to get the key to the manor. This way we get a summary of the whole journey in one form. It seems to me that not many games do that. I hope this idea will work in the long run. Bob still needs some work with attacks, gameplay balance and the whole storyline around. But first I want to have a relatively finished level design before the boss, so I know how hard he should be. And of course there might be some things along the way that I'm not thinking about right now. Thanks for watching, that's all in this video, please like, subscribe and visit my Discord server. See you soon!